Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris, and today we're going to be creating some more foundations for the city. So let's get started. Okay, so just the other day, I moved this road over by 16 studs to allow myself to have full base plates over here for modular buildings, as well as this side over here. And so now I have to go in and add a bunch of foundations in here, because as it is right now, that half base plate right there needs one, that 16 by 16 plate needs one. There's a base plate and a half that needs it right here. And then this whole section is going to need it as well. I don't know how much of this I'm going to get done today. It just is entirely dependent on how many pieces I have. But hopefully I will have at least enough to finish the one side here. And then if I get any done on this side here, that would be a nice bonus. But I'm going to start with making that 48 by 32 one right there. And then we can go ahead and worry about that section right there because it's kind of an odd size, the 16 by 48. So I don't know if I want to keep those separate, if I want to put them together. But we'll worry about that in a minute. I want to start with this section right here, though. And also something to keep in mind is that the large crane sits back here as well. And the one leg of it sticks out by 6 studs. I'm going to see if it's possible to keep the crane here with just kind of making an odd shaped foundation. But I guess we'll see how that goes, and then we can play it by ear to see if it actually fits. But for now, I'm going to make it, and hopefully everything works out just fine. All right, so for those of you that have not seen my custom foundations before, I'm just going to give a quick overview for them right here. This is, like I had said, the dimensions for it is 32 studs deep by 48 studs long in the front here. And this is where the street is going to be. And so basically all it is just a layer or 2 layers of plate interlocked together. And this section is open for the crane here just to see if I can fit it under there. But if not, this would connect and then this whole thing would be pretty solid as it is, although it's not super strong yet. But what I'm going to do now is add a bunch of tiles on top. And these are 1x1 sand blue tiles that I got from the pick-a-brick wall. And these are the 2x4 printed tiles that you get from the road plate sets. I have so many of these and I don't know what to do with them. So I'm going to just end up using a few of them on these foundations here today. Just because I want to interlock some of these plates together, like right here, you could span a 2x4 tile across and that would interlock it. And I could also go ahead and add a plate in here as well to interlock those sets of plates as well to give it a little bit more structure. And also, since this is going to be right up against the street here, if you go to press down and place a minifig on it, I want it to be strong enough to be able to withstand that pressure when I'm placing tiles down. So I don't want to have to worry about this caving in on itself. So this is going to be slightly over-engineered and also really ugly, but it will get the job done and serve its purpose. All right, so as you guys can see, all the tiles are laid out on the top now. And again, I'm leaving that gap open for the crane. I didn't measure it, but I'm kind of just eyeballing it to see if that'll work. And I think it'll be fine. And as you guys can see now, you can put a bunch of weight on this and it is not going anywhere. So that's great to see. And I've also already started laying out the final layer underneath. So the foundations, once they're done, have a total of 4 layers. From top to bottom is the tile, 1 layer of plate, a second layer of plate, and then an entire layer of 1x1 studs. And pretty much what I mean by that is literally you just take a whole bunch of these 1x1 studs and you just go around and you add them like this. And then this entire thing will be raised up by 1 extra plate, making it at the correct height for the roads and all of the other buildings. And this will, when you sit a base plate on top of this, this will allow for mills plates to be the exact same height. So that's great to see, and that makes it really convenient when you're working with this kind of stuff here. So for me, this is a cheaper alternative because I have all of these plates already in my collection just sitting around. And so now I can go ahead and pretty much just build this for free without having to buy extra base plates and bricks for mills plates and also the plate on top. I have all of these plates already, so I can just go ahead and use all of these and then everything is how I want it in the city. So it's kind of just a win-win for me. And these 1x1 plates that are already here when the clip started, these are for the, well, technically it's upside down. So this, where these orange and yellow plates are right now, are the bottom layer of the two plates. And this black plate right here and this one here are the top layer because it's upside down. And so these 1x1 studs in here already that you can see kind of dotted around are the supports for the middle of the plate. So these 2x4s and 2x6s and whatever going around, those are for the supports to connect all the plates together. But these 1x1 studs just help add a little bit of extra support so they don't cave in on themselves. And then pretty much what I'm doing, like I showed you guys just a minute ago, is I'm adding an entire row or layer, I guess, of studs onto the entire thing so that it sets up one plate higher, making it at the correct height for Mills plates. All right, so now that all of the studs are on the bottom, you can see now that it is 4 layers tall. So the 1x1 studs on the bottom, this bottom layer of plate, the top layer of plate right here, and then the tiles on top. So let's go ahead and place this in the city, and I will show you guys how it looks next to Mills plates and other foundations, as well as the streets. All right, so here it is placed in the city, and with the crane over there, I removed the 4x4 plate that was on the edge, and so now it's at the same height. Technically, the studs that are on the Technic bricks and the slopes right there do stick up just slightly higher than the tiles. But when you put base plates on this, like this here, and, you know, let's say we put this half base plate over here, you can't really tell that it's a little bit higher. Plus, these are all going to have buildings on them anyways, so that's not the end of the world. The base plate's not going to get ruined because of that, so I'm going to probably just leave it as it is, to be totally honest with you. And then I'm going to switch out these 2 half base plates here for a full one, just so that makes a little bit more sense. And then, so this is that whole section done. And so now we have to worry about this section right here, which I might actually end up Mills plating instead of doing foundations for. But let me bring this over to the build table and we can talk about that more in detail. All right, so for this section here, I have a few options as to what I can do with it. I can keep it, first and foremost, I can keep it as one unit like it is now, or I can keep it as 2 separate sections here. I'm leaning towards keeping it as 2 separate sections because what I'm thinking of doing is actually making this a foundation by doing something like this here. And then let me put the base plate on top of this here. So base plate would go on that one. And then for the 16x16 plate, since I don't have this in green, my plan is to actually Mills plate this one, and then that way everything will be green across the top here, and I don't have to spend a bunch of brick and plate on this one. So that kind of gets the best of both worlds here. This one is only, I just mocked this up really quick, but this foundation is only 14 studs deep because the access hole is not completely even with how the base plates on the table are aligned, which is not a big deal at all, but the last 2 studs would overhang the access hole. So by making it 14 studs, this actually kind of works out even better. Just so then there's all 4 corners are in contact with the table, and then the base plate will just sit on the back like this here. So that's not a problem. That might actually end up being better, which was completely accidental because I just mocked this up really quick to just kind of show you guys what this would look like here. But let me Mills plate this really quick and let me finish this foundation, and then we can see how it looks together, and then we can see how it looks in the city. All right, so here is the foundation for the 16x32 plate, and then here is the Mills plate for the 16x16. And as you guys can see, those line up perfectly with each other. And I also realized that while I was placing the 32x48 foundation in the city, that I can't actually show you guys these next to the roads. So that's because the roads are not on base plates at the moment. They're just sitting on the table because I just ripped them off the other base plates so that I could move them over. So they are not able to be moved over next to these to like show you guys that they're at the right height. But this is a standard Mills plate here, and so as you guys can see, these are at the correct height here, which is good to see. And so now we can go place this in the city and see how it all looks. All right, so here it is placed in the city, and I added a bunch of extra tiles on the side here because that's where the aisle or the alleyway is on the Sanctum Sanctorum. So in case I do end up putting something there, there is extra support over there. And so now this entire section is pretty much done here. I just have to make sure all of these base plates are aligned, but that's not the end of the world. So now let me try and start making at least one for maybe this corner here, and then at least seeing where it goes, and also ripping up all of these 4x4 plates in here because I don't need those anymore. So I can just rip out this whole section here, and I can rip out that whole section there. I also need to, I'm just realizing this now, I need to move this crossing over. So I'm going to do that as well, and then I'll be back with hopefully at least one more foundation, but it's entirely dependent on how many pieces I have. All right, so I've been pretty busy over here actually, and I made a foundation for this section right here. And I didn't know what to do with this area here because this, from that corner over through here, is one base plate. And so I didn't really know what to do with this area. So what I actually ended up doing was just doing a regular mills plate throughout this L shape here. I didn't have to destroy this, which was nice. I just had to build this section out here. And so I also did move the crossing, so I forgot to do that on both sides, but that is done now, as you guys can see down there. And it's also done over here, which is good to see. And then so I can just come through and add in all of the 4x4 plate here. And that is pretty much it for this corner of the city here. And then you can obviously, lock it together with tiles or what have you. But that's how it's looking right now. I would actually think I would rather put light gray base plates along this section here, just so it looks a little bit nicer, because when you look at it from the back here, you will see the back edge of the base plate and the foundation. So I have to figure out something like this to put along the back here, but that will come in due time. I just need to clean up my mess, and then that is pretty much it. So on that note, that is going to wrap up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked what I did, make sure to like the video and subscribe, as well as click the bell notification so you don't miss any future uploads. If you guys have any feedback for me on this area as a whole, and also the use of the foundations over here, make sure to drop a comment down below. And once again, thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.